Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to this episode of Technically Short. So I think this is episode 7, I think.
I think we are on episode 7.
And yeah, so this episode is definitely going to be a little bit deeper than, I think episode 6 was deep. Last episode was that the last one? No, episode 3 was about relationships. That was definitely one of our deeper conversations. This one might be a little bit deeper because it's a little bit more personal.
I agree.
But it's definitely going to help a lot. I do believe this conversation can help a lot of people. So before we start, I just want to say, if you haven't already and you've been liking our podcast, definitely subscribe on whatever platform you're on. Make sure notifications are on so you don't miss an episode. Give us a like and share our episodes. If you like this episode specifically, share it onto your social media so more people can benefit from this message.
Absolutely. Share, like, subscribe. Give us 5-star ratings.
Only 5 stars. 4 is okay too. But all right. So let's dive into the topic. Today's topic is going to be titled "Living Through Trials," and really, it's all based around it's gonna be a lot of this based around personal experiences, personal revelations, and things that we've both learned through the trials that we've lived through in our lives. And first, I guess I skipped over the first part already. This is the first time I've ever made a full outline for this, and I already skipped the first one. But we'll just dive into subtopics. But really, what I want to dive into is give you guys a basic backstory and set a foundation for the conversation as to why this is something that this topic was my idea,
right? And
this is something I specifically wanted to talk about. It's something I'm very passionate about. And currently in my life, I've been going through a trial that I've honestly going through it for about 4-ish, almost 5 years, I think. And really, and what it seems to be is, to me, and so some doctors is nerve pain, but some doctors have not. Doctors aren't really agreeing with other doctors, and therapists can't. My occupational therapist couldn't figure it. Is stumped. So the current trial that I'm going through is just it's constant pain. Sometimes it's mild, sometimes it's intense, but it's usually pretty constant. And as of recently, today is August 20th. This episode's coming out first Tuesday in September, but as of August 20th, I started feeling some tightness in my neck, and so there's a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of things happening in my body that I don't know what they are. And so I'm going to start this conversation, and John, I'm just going to tell you you can jump in whenever with this. But I'm going to start with talking about how with a trial, actually, Sean, before I just was going to dive in, I was going to skip you. What's the trial you wanted to talk about right this episode?
Oh, well, the trial I want to talk about this episode is what I'm currently facing. All the situations, all the problems, my current experiences, and I'll give a brief I don't know how you would say it, a brief explanation on it, I guess. So currently what I'm facing new job, new career, new opportunities, mental suffering from stress, and currently was just injured on a roller coaster, so it was either somewhat of a concussion / vertigo type of deal, and that was another trial, and I'll dive deeper into all the situations I'm currently facing, but that's just a little brief explanation of what the topics I'm going to talk about is.
Yeah, awesome. So, and like, yeah, just to give a little bit more context, to Sean's, that actually that happened recently, like within like a week, within a few days of recording this. So as far as like the vertigo goes, and and I'm sure he'll dive more into what the doctors said and things like that when we were there, because it definitely didn't help in some instances.
Definitely didn't.
But so yeah, so diving in, the first thing I want to talk about, like with, like Sean mentioned it already, he's talking about these mental struggles, and with me, I'm dealing with a seemingly, it is a physical struggle. However, trials in and of themselves, even if it's a physical struggle, it's not just a physical struggle. It's just as much, if not honestly sometimes more, of a mental struggle than it is a physical struggle. And the mental struggle is through all trials. This is going to apply to every trial that anyone has ever faced, because I don't believe that's a bold statement to make. The people deal with mental trials all the time, varying in degree, but whenever you're in the valley and you're in these depths, you have to, like, one thing that you have to do or suffer the consequences is choosing to either grow through the trial and think about how it's growing you, or how it can grow you, or allow it to destroy you. And that's something I want to kind of talk about. There's, like, with me and my specific trial, I was asked earlier today by one of our pastors, Pastor Christina. She asked me, like, she prayed over me, and she asked me. She was the first person to ask me, like, how I'm doing mentally. Specifically mentally, I feel like people have asked me before, like, how are you doing? But she was the first person to actually ask me, like, how's your mind? And I could honestly say that even though my condition is worse than it was a few months ago, I'm doing better mentally because of the community and the tactics that I've applied, and the community that I've surrounded myself with. One thing that I've done and that prepared me for this initially was starting to go to therapy. I was already going to therapy for almost a year, I think. Almost a year, I think, before this really got bad, about a year ago. So I think maybe I was going for 6 months whenever it started happening. It's almost been about a year since it started getting worse. And going to therapy, and I remember, I was thinking about this yesterday when I was mentally preparing for this episode, that for me, going to therapy, it's not like you don't have to be going through a trial to go to therapy. But that's sometimes when people go to therapy, and then once the trial's over, they stop. And I think I honestly believe, I know that's a mistake. I believe people, like everybody, I am a personal advocate for everybody having a therapist or a counselor or somebody that understands the human mind better than they do. Because those are the people that God's appointed to know and understand the tactics that know and understand the human mind and the tactics behind how to have a healthy one. So my therapist, or me going to therapy, wasn't just what John Maxwell calls, he has a concept called you're either preparing or repairing. And for therapy, in this instance, that was at first it was repairing my mind after it was kind of. After there were things I had to deal with and go through, things that were already kind of festering in my mind, and there had to be some repairments done. Then, whenever I then whenever I decided to keep going and that trial subsided, that last trial subsided of repairing, it started to be more of a preparing season than a repairing season. And I know that if I didn't have the tools that my therapist gave me, or the mindsets that my therapist helped me unlock, then I would be in so much of a worse place than I am now. And it's that mixed with diving in, being surrounded by a good Christian community and diving into the Word of God, specifically for me, the messages around mental health, around when certain people that are writing the Bible talk about anxiety and stress, and how to handle that. They say take every thought captive and give it to God so that He can turn it around into something that is of God, which means taking something that isn't taking something that isn't good and making it good. And that all happen. That sometimes it only happens in the mind, because right now I'm really trying not to jump around too much. I'm hoping I'm making sense to you guys. Sean, if you think there's anything I need to give more depth on, let me know.
Yeah, I honestly think you're doing a good job. You're staying straight to the point.
Okay, thanks. And I definitely do, that's kind of it with more of a tangent with going to scripture. But let me go back to the therapy real quick. One of my favorite tools that she gave me, at least realizations that she gave me, is I was in a depth of anger. This was about my past trial, and I was angry about a lot of things. Angry at myself, angry at people, and then I was also I started getting anxious about other things. And she goes, Thomas, I don't think God gave us emotions. God gave us these emotions, so that means we're meant to have them. So I don't think God gave us emotions in order for us not to use them. And she goes, so you can be angry, but don't stay there. Anger can be used for good, it can be used for bad. It's a tool just like any other. And anger, in my sense, I was using my anger in the wrong way. She said it's a valid reason to maybe be angry, but it wasn't inadvertently. She's like, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to have these feelings. They're not technically negative feelings. It's all about how you use them, and it's whether you stay there. I think that goes back to whether you're going to let it build you or destroy you. I think, and I know the specific lessons that I've learned through this trial of medical uncertainty, of not knowing anything about what's going on with me. That for me was the biggest struggle. It's the not knowing. That's always been a struggle with me. It's getting the uncomfortable and not understanding what's going on. And then because of this is my body, this is me, I get stressed. I get extremely stressed out. And one time I had a realization that even though I don't know anything, I don't know what's going on. I have slowly gaining more of an understanding, more of an idea, but I still don't know exactly what's happening. But God knows. Oops, I shouldn't do that. But God knows. He knows. If He knows how many hairs are on my head, He knows exactly the pain that I'm going through and knows exactly why. And some people that maybe aren't Christians or maybe don't fully understand what I'm talking about, let me explain a little bit further into that. Why would God let me be in pain? I had somebody at a men's small group ask me once if I ever thanked God for the pain. And I didn't really get at first I didn't get much of an explanation about it. And then I asked, Sean and I,
Yeah.
being roommates, we talked about it for a little bit, and you helped me understand, like, and helped me kind of like figure it out. Like, it's not, he's not saying like straight up just be thankful for the pain.
Right.
What he was saying, and I texted with him and made sure that I verified it with him, to make sure this is what he was saying, and it makes a bunch of sense. That you're not thankful necessarily for the pain in itself. You're thankful for the fact that if you're in pain, then there's a reason for it, because God, like, he has the power to just snap me back to feeling perfectly well.
Absolutely.
But if he hasn't, then there's a reason for it. Because God is love and God is joy. So if God is love, God is joy, then what he's doing, if I fully trust and believe in him, and I do, then I also believe that his reasoning is good. So I don't need to know why I'm in pain, or like why I don't need to know why I'm in pain physically. I still will figure it out. I don't need to know right now. I can be content in the not knowing, but I can also know that God's working it out for his good. For his good and my good, which means my good, and for his glory. Because the pain of, I don't know where I was going somewhere.
So you're saying the pain, it's going to make you better. It's going to take you to a higher level.
Yeah.
It's going to take you to the next level.
There we go. Yeah, thanks, man.
No problem.
Yeah, so it's this is actually a really good concept I was thinking about earlier, is that, like, your, like, life doesn't, like, if you start viewing life this way, none of your trial, it's going to dull a lot of the effects of the trials. Maybe not at first, but you replay this thought in your head that life does not happen to you. It always happens for you. And if it only happens to you, then that's where it stops. Things are just happening to you, good or bad. That's where it stops. It doesn't matter the reasoning behind it. It just, that it's happening to you. You're a victim. But if it's happening for you, then if it's happening for you, it doesn't stop there. Because if it's happening for you, then there's a reason that it was given. This was given to you. There's a reason behind why it's happening. And if you're like Sean and I believe in a good God who only does things for our good, then whatever is happening for you will be a good thing. So that I can think back and think about all the fantastic things that have happened because of going through this trial, and the growth I've gone through because of this trial. And I'm not the same person that I was a year ago. So I want to just encourage you, if you're going through a trial right now, that I want to encourage you around that's just like your trial that you're going through right now. I want to ask you to stop acting the victim, and I also want you to look at it from a perspective of how is this growing me? And there are actually some instances where, yes, you may actually have been a victim in a terrible thing. Something terrible could have happened to you by some other person that did an act of evil. But there is still goodness on the other side of it.
Absolutely.
There is still redemption on that. There is still, if it's something that maybe you did, maybe you put yourself through a trial, maybe you're putting yourself through a trial, and it's something that you did, maybe you did something, and now you're dealing with the mental repercussions of it. there's still redemption for that. There is still a good God who forgives, and a good God who loves you, and a good God who only wants to use these things for your good. So how is it growing you? How can the understanding of this trial grow you, and how will that help the other people around you? That's a whole other topic about how trials aren't just for you, but they're for the people around you. But I won't go too far into that. But yeah, Sean, if you want to take it.
All right. I think that was really good, honestly. And I love the rawness that you have, literally just letting everybody know what the issues, all the trials that you're facing. And we'll, so like, I love the rawness of it. Alright, I'll go into my trials before we start asking each other questions and stuff. Okay, so, my trials, one of them, I put my own self in. Yes, some trials that you do, you could be the cause. You could be the reason of your mental frustration, your mental suffering. You can be that reason. Why? Because we do stupid things sometimes. For instance, I did something stupid at work that cost me my job. Was it criminal? No. I don't even think it was a sin. But it still was stupid. And that literally cost me my job, right? So I had to face that. And as I'm facing that, then I was also hit with something that I didn't control. Something that was beyond my experience. Something that was just unexpected. After looking for a new career and all that, I'm enjoying myself at an amusement park, Kennywood. And then I'm faced with another trial, which is either concussion or vertigo or both or whatever. The doctor didn't really check me out at all. Like, they really just put like some they checked for my heart rate, and they gave me IV, and that's just like nutrients and stuff so to keep you from being dehydrated. And they just prescribed me for vertigo. They didn't do a CAT scan or anything to check on me. But during that trial, I learned something different, which was no matter what we're facing in life, no matter what trial you put yourself through, or what trial was just given to you by the enemy, or for God, for your glory, for His glory, there is always goodness on the other side of the trial. So even though I'm facing all these things, like, okay, new career opportunities, the stress that comes with, okay, where am I going to go? What am I going to do? And the mental of trying to get my mind back and my body back to being fully healthy after the vertigo and concussion. Even though I'm facing all these things, I have to remember that God is good, that God has something for me on the other side. So our trials, though they are hard, they make you better. And not only do they make you better, but then you can use that, what you overcame, to help other people. So it's never about us, but it's about more. So your story turns to God's glory for other people's use. Now, people have been through all sorts of types of trials. Like, you have women who are raped, right? You have two outcomes of that, right? Mm-hmm. You have one who's like, I'm a victim, and this was awfully done. Something horrific was done to me. And then you have another who could say, this horrific event that happened to me, I am going to use it for God's glory. Now she's helping other women who were raped, and you see that and stuff like that. And same thing with when people are murdered, you have two type of outcomes too. Like, will the family use it for God's glory, or will they just use it for their own suffering? In life, we have two choices: God's glory, your suffering. You could be the victim of your problem, or you could use whatever problem that was given to you for God's glory. And I think that's something that's just truly amazing, that God gives us the opportunity to be like, okay, while I'm suffering, I can either blame God and like what Job's friends did in the Bible, when Job first lost all his cattle, then he ended up getting plagued by Satan, and like physically, like making him have boils on his body, and then Satan even kills all of his kids. And his friends come to Job and say, just curse God and die. His wife says that to him. Like, God's clearly not on your side. But Job, he stays faithful. He realizes that no matter what, God is good, and God will work this out for his glory. So you know what happens at the end of Job? Job is blessed with double the amount of kids, double amount of wealth, and his body is healed. And like, so all the things he faced, he overcame by staying focused on God and reminding himself who God is. And that was the double blessing on his life. So I have to try to do that every time I face a trial. And honestly, it's hard. It is hard. Biggest trial for me is because like when I go through suffering, I like to like be like, oh, it sucks. This is this. And then I need other people, other brethren, and other people to encourage me during my trial. So I'm like, oh, they're like, yeah, but God will use this for your glory and his glory. I'm like, oh yeah, and you're right. And that gives me the energy, and that gives me the word of God stirs the fire into me and the anointing. And then I realize, okay, yeah, keep my eyes focused on God and things will be good. So that's the trial.
Cool. That's good, man. That's good. I was writing some things in the notes, and I think we kind of already answered the questions that you wrote down. But the one you can ask, what's the one question that you have?
Okay. So what was your most significant trial, and what did you learn from it, Thomas?
I think kind of already like my most significant trial, I'm going to say, is the one that I'm going through right now. And I was actually writing down something like that honestly has been one of the biggest realizations for me while going through this. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is, and this doesn't just apply to my trial, this applies to my life, is that I can't do it all by myself. And which means like I can't just handle this trial. I can't carry this weight on my own because I wasn't created to.
Right.
I wasn't created to handle this weight by myself. That's why God. That's like I can give this to God, and I can also share it with others. I can share it with friends who only want to build me up, that only want to pour into me, that will allow me to just talk to them and rant and just talk about like, this is what I'm going through. This is what just happened. I called a friend after a doctor. I had a call with a doctor and I just cried. I just cried on the phone with him for like 30 minutes. And like expressing my frustration, the stress that I was going through. And he just listened. And those are the kinds of people you want in your life. Is the people that will come alongside you, so that when the going does get tough, they don't run away. And that these are the people that you can go to with. They're not just going to be. They're not just going. If you start to rant and complain, they're not going to just sit there and agree with you that yeah, that sucks. No, they're going to come alongside you and say, hey, let's deal with this together. They're like, yes, this is not a great. Like, yeah, this is not a great situation. Like. And sometimes maybe they'll ask, what can we do about it? Or they're just gonna be like, let's just sit in it. Let's just sit together and be together because you don't have to be alone. And then this concept doesn't just apply to that's what I just talked about. It's also like more personally, this is something I struggled with whenever it comes to what I do with the church. I do production with our young adult group. And for a while, the team was just me, and I wasn't really working on building the team that much. And I was just more focused on how can I make sure this is a smooth experience for everybody, but I was also experiencing like more thinking about how can I do it right. And once I started getting into so much pain that I realized I was like, I can't actually do this by myself. David, our friend David, on Sunday, I asked him. He expressed interest one day about maybe joining production on Sundays, and I was like, "Hey man, I'm going to need help." I think I asked him on Saturday if he could help on Sunday, and I was like, "Hey man, I'll be if you could help out. I know you expressed some interest. If you could help me out and take my place, and I'll guide you through how to do it, that'd be awesome." He said yes, and he's still serving on production. And then he also helps on Wednesdays, and he started joining the production team where it was just me. Then he joined the team, and then that made me realize, like, man, this is so much easier with other people around. Like I don't have to do this by myself. Like now the team has more people than I could ever the team than we even need, and it's great. Like we can rotate people out, but people can take a break, and it's all because of it's all because of what God's taught me through this trial. Would I have learned that eventually? Maybe, but it would have taken a lot longer. And so, like, this, like, put that part of me it humbled me. This trial, it humbled me so much to be realized, like, I actually can't do things by myself. Not just physically, but like the mental toll it takes to actually try to do things by yourself. Like, that's a weight. And it's like, if you're like me, maybe you don't, maybe you're good at not showing it. And there's certain people that can see it.
That's true.
But like, maybe you're good at not showing it, and you can you hold it in, and then when you get home, you let it out when you're by yourself, and that's not a healthy way to be. That's just me speaking through my own vulnerable experience. And so yeah, I think the biggest thing I've learned was that even right now, like, don't have to be going through a trial to apply this. Like, whatever you're doing right now, don't do it by yourself.
I agree.
Whatever it is, that's it. What about you?
All right. For me, biggest thing I learned during this trial, honestly, is to lean more on God, right? So I agree with you. You can't do a trial by yourself. And I think leaning on God and realizing, okay, what am I learning right now during this trial? What is God trying to teach me? What should I do that I don't need to repeat when it's a personal trial? What did you cost your own self? And so I learned in this trial that, for one, lean on God. For two, maintain self-control. Because self-control can keep you out of so much personal trials. If I had self-control that day, I wouldn't have done that stupid thing at work. And I would have eventually left my career there rather than have to be forced out, you know? So self-control was big trial for me. So I mean, a big something I learned, something I can always use is more self-control. So definitely, I'll definitely say that. Now let's see, I have a second question for you. Oh, I like this one though.
Okay, go ahead.
Alright, this question. I know Thomas didn't like this one that much. Don't think we need this one. Put that in notes. I still think it is. What do you find more difficult, mental or physical trials? The reason why I like this question is because it's specific for a person. Like, everybody's different. Somebody's gonna be like, oh, I like physical trials better, or I like mental trials better, because it's who they are.
I think the way you're saying that's weird.
No.
You say, do I like this type of trial better? I don't think I don't think anybody likes trials.
The question itself is, what do you find more difficult? There's no liking in it at all. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, that's just the word you used. That's what you used. Honestly, I'm going to stick with what I said before. I think they're pretty much. I think a trial is a trial because it's always mental. Every trial is a mental trial. So, I don't really think one's greater. Personally, I don't think one is harder to deal with. I think than the other. It all depends. Like you kind of what you said. It depends. It depends on who you are and the preparation that you did beforehand, whether you knew you were preparing or not to be in a trial. I don't think people actually know they're going to be in a trial before they're in it. But so that means that you need to be preparing in expectation of being in one, because one day you will be. That's just a part of life. So I think I think all trials are mental trials. And sometimes other things like the physical traits of them sometimes sprinkled into that, but that just adds to that is a reason of that physical trial is also a mental trial. So I don't really think they're too much different.
Well, for me, if I'm being honest, I think physical trials are harder, right? Because, like, mentally, I think we all go through things, but physically, it's harder because you're dealing with something that you normally know your body should be capable of doing, right? So, for instance, like, my vertigo thing, it was more of being able not to be able to be who I am as independent, and it also was me not being able to just walk normally or run or drive or do anything that I normally would be able to physically be able to do. But because it is a physical trial, there is literally nothing I can do but focus on God and go to the emergency room, get some medicine, and then just rest and hope and pray that I would get better. Mentally, I think we face a lot of things mentally, and I feel like if you're physically fine, I think it's a lot easier, in my opinion, to deal with any type of mental issue. But when you're physically not fine, for whatever reason, whatever trial you're in, I think it's a lot harder mentally, because that's something that now you're just adding more weight to you, because you already have to deal with things in the life. But when your body's not working the way it should be, it's painful, and I feel like it's more of a trial, more of a difficulty than it is when it's just mental stuff you have to deal with.
Yeah, I can get that. I can get that to an extent. I think, yeah. But so that pretty much ends. That ends the main portion of this conversation. But that brings us down to this little segment where we'll have like a different type of discussion about pretty much anything. Just it's a little bit of a lighter discussion. Maybe one day we'll actually give it a title.
Lighter tones.
Lighter tones. But my question for Sean today, and this is.
I love this question.
You're a strange person. Sean, why do you think it's okay to put ketchup on steak?
Oh, okay. Well, I honestly think it is okay.
Not.
It totally is in certain circumstances. Like, for instance, if somebody cooked your steak wrong,
then get a new steak.
No, you're not going to waste the steak. It's a steak. You're going to
get a new steak.
I'm just going to put ketchup on it. I'll put barbecue sauce on it too. Like, if it's not cooked correctly, like, I like my stuff to have some pink in it. So if it's like, what's it called? when it's fully cooked. I forget, like
Well done.
Well done. If it's something like well done or something like that, then I would definitely put ketchup on it. Or barbecue sauce, or Worcestershire sauce, or anything that would make it taste better. Because when things are not cooked right, I feel like sauce, you can just sauce things over. I think if we do that in life, that'll actually preach.
Oh my gosh. I think that if you're going somewhere to order a steak and they cook it wrong, you send it back. And if they do, and if you go into a place that is specifically known for their steak and you put ketchup on it, then you shouldn't have gone to that place. you shouldn't be there.
But what if it's like your parents or somebody and they cooked your steak?
If
like,
it's your
and they cooked it wrong, you're like, oh, I don't want to do this to mom. And be like, Mom, you cooked steak wrong. You're gonna put some sauce on it, right?
Yeah, I get that. That never came up in our discussions before. If my mom cooked my steak, I think I would not. I'd be honest. I don't think I'm expecting. I'm not expecting the same kind of culinary art that I'm expecting.
Right.
So like, I'm just honestly, I don't put ketchup on my steak at all because I think that's weird. But like,
would you put barbecue sauce or some type?
I would put like maybe A1, but
A1, yeah.
But like the. But no, I can get that. But like, no, I guess I was more talking about if you're going to like if you're going to like a steakhouse and you're going and they sometimes you'll see that they purposely do not put sauce on the table because they're like, you won't need it, and then you're like, got some ketchup in the back. They're like, we didn't give you fries, man.
Yeah, if I ask for ketchup or if I ask
the food's bad.
Yeah, it usually is. But I'll just sauce it over, and I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. I'm usually that way.
You do it wrong, man. You're doing it again. That's not my problem.
Totally fair. I agree with both views. Because when you get what you pay for. So if you're paying for an expensive steak, you deserve it to be cooked the way you like it. But at the same time, like, some of the waiters and the cooks, they be, like, stressed out. This is a rough day.
They're always stressed out at the kitchen.
I know, that's what I mean. It's like, it's a rough day for them. I don't like being like, hey, this wasn't done right. Bring it back. I need another one. I mean, I would do it if it was, like, something I'm allergic to, or if it's, like, sweet potatoes, yams, pumpkin pie, or plantains, or anything I just generally don't like. But other than that, I'll never send it back.
Okay, I'm going to think about this. I want to put a question. This will be on Spotify for our majority of Spotify listeners. For the chefs out there, is it okay to put ketchup on steak? We're going to put a poll of yes or no.
Or barbecue sauce. Definitely.
We're just thinking ketchup because that was the first thing. That was our main discussion point before. We've had this discussion before, and you were dying on that hill. So.
Yeah, I honestly still am. You know, like I said, I'll put ketchup on anything, almost anything.
But yeah, so that ends this episode. Not really sure how long it lasted. Actually, we didn't put a timer this time. So. If you listen to this whole episode, thank you. If you like this episode, definitely give it a like. If you think this episode might help somebody, maybe give them some tools about going through their trials, and maybe give them a different mindset about it. Definitely share it with them so that they can listen to it and maybe start a conversation with them. If you like this episode, again, give it a like. Maybe drop us a subscribe and
5-star rating.
Give us a 5-star. And also, in the show notes for if you know somebody that feels like that needs to go see, that you believe needs to see a therapist, or you definitely haven't thought about therapy before, and now you're thinking maybe that might be something that you want to look into. I'm going to drop a link for Christian counseling down in the show notes so that you can go directly to that source. I was going to put my personal therapist on there, but I saw today that they aren't accepting new clients right now. So I'll drop that link down below, because I believe mental health is extremely important. If you're not taking care of yourself mentally, you're gonna go downhill in all areas. So, but yeah, with that said, we'll see you guys next time. Thank you for listening.
Love you guys.